So just moving leg to leg. Gentle figure of 8 around the feet or around the hips, however you see it. Hand on the dantian, thumb in the navel, with a sense that your dantian is coming together. It's condensing, cohering. So when your mind quietens and settles, it will naturally come to the lower dantian. So I want to feel the weight going around the foot from the heel, outside edge through the toes. So as I settle into the dantian and quieten down inside, I'm effectively releasing to gravity. And as the dantian draws in, there's a sense that my body's sort of moving backwards a little bit. Like my center of gravity is drawing in towards the spine. And then my sinking, I feel my sinking more in the back of my legs than the front. This is what we want to feel here. So it's what we call drooping buttocks. So the buttock feels like it's melting down the back of the leg and into the heel. So rooting in the heels. So I get a sense of the energy sort of enveloping me. So I'm just becoming this rounded unit, like a ball. And the energy is just sweeping around. There's a sense that my hands are sort of following these blooms of energy. And just, so we come back to something that is reassuringly, but also depressively familiar, which is like the gravitas, the weight of practice. It's inevitability. It's always there waiting for us. It won't go away just because we don't want to do it. So there's that sense of, oh no, not this again. Every time you start, yeah. And then once you settle into that ground state, from there, something can just develop and expand. And the interest starts coming in and it becomes something quite different. But it has to start from that base of relaxed depression, not depression in a bad way, but just, you know, not coming up, not coming up actively, sinking. I'm pressing down. I'm feeling the weight. Just to get my root. And then if something does come up, it's real. It's not a function of my fantasizing mind. And now just start to feel the 2 feet as separate. So the equilibrium between the left and the right. So I have a right leg and I have a left leg. And the two are playing together. So I just want to get out of that ego state, that state of me being the little fascist, the dictator that's telling all my pieces what to do. So I'm feeling the 2 parts and they're playing together. You know, they're it's like there's something bouncing between them all the time. So I'm just this sort of resonance between the left and the right. So I'm really in the thick of it. I'm here, right in the middle. I'm not on high, directing all of this or trying not to. I'm in the thick of it. What we need to do, you know, as we sort of progress, we just become quieter inside. So we're able to notice more and more details and just reach deeper levels, not by striving, but simply because that's where the work takes us when we become quiet inside. So I just want to be really mindful of how the 2 feet feel, how different they feel as I move my weight. Yeah. So this is becoming sort of secure and solid, and this is becoming a little bit anxious because it's sort of losing me. So this foot doesn't want to sort of tighten up. I don't want to pull myself together even more just to give me a sense of stability. I just want to really let my 2 parts almost separate. They're held together by the Dan Chen. They don't need any help, any extra help from your anxiety. And then we just want to start, because we want to be able to pick up one of the feet, the foot, obviously the one that the weight isn't in. And so I need to send something out here in order to wrench this foot up, because what I don't want to do is wrench here and be pulling with my muscles too much. I want to somehow just create like a fall in this direction that will balance the natural pull back from my leg that's trying to get off the ground. So I'm sending something out here, and that just lifts the leg, yeah? But still trying to keep all of this relaxed. And then as soon as my foot hits the ground, something goes back into it before my weight moves. So it's not just a matter of sending my arms out here. I have to send my mind. There's part of my mind that's going in this direction, just to balance the pull here, just to really balance my own anxiety, really. You know, because when you lift a foot off the ground, it's always trying to pull back down. You're always trying to come back to the middle where you're most stable. So we're sort of tottering on the brink of falling. And I just want to keep that shaky feeling, because that's just a sign that there's a lot of energy. So I move in this direction. Something in me keeps going in that direction to bring this foot off the ground. And then the foot goes down, and something in me just releases into it before I move the weight. So I send the arms out and my mind as well to bring the foot off the ground. And then if I bring my foot in, then this arm can afford to come in, because there's no longer the same weight hanging that way. Yeah. But then if I want to send that leg out again to step, I need to balance it. So we're just we're trying to get every state that we're in to be in equilibrium, to be a balance. And just see what it does. How does the body have to change in order to manage this? So going out, that brings the foot off the ground, and then I can afford to hold the ball, if you like, when the foot is close. But then here, something in me has to expand to get that foot down. Ooh. Yeah, so we want to feel and appreciate the different quality in my own space that I contain. So the space of my body and my ward off, if you like, and the space outside it. So here, the space that my arm and my hand are sort of reaching into has got a very different feel than my own space. And also I need a very different mind and spirit to venture into it than I do to just contain and be within my own space. So this is what we want to feel. Yeah. So what is it so something in me really has to brighten up and get a little bit fierce in order to venture into that space outside of my own body. Yeah. So I want to feel as though if I'm going to fall, I'm going to fall that way rather than this way. So I'm really taking a risk. I'm not banking. I'm not putting. I'm not for safety. I'm for danger. Yeah. Okay. So let's just bring it to riding horse. And again, just feeling the two legs. Two legs are always playing. And that play, as we know, produces a turn. And we just want to feel this space, my own body, plus like my aura, like this, the ward-off space in front, and just something that surrounds me. So I want to feel that I'm really much encapsulated, like the energy field that contains me is really rounded and smooth. Yeah. So for that, I just need to bring the belly in and just try and round out my lower back and just release the gravity. Yeah. And just allow this just to have enough pull to make me cohere so that I'm not dissipating and evaporating out all the time. Yeah, so we just want to feel how that space inside is quite, it's sort of dark and gloomy. Yeah. And whereas the space outside is bright and interesting. Yeah. So again, we want to feel the equilibrium between those two places. My own state, which is always pulling me home, if you like. Once I learn to quieten down, so I'm not constantly thrusting myself up here, then we can start feeling these things. So I quieten down and it just brings me to my home, which is the gloom. It's the space inside. And then I can feel there's another part of me, my spirit, that's just wanting to creep out and explore. Yeah. And so those two states, they're always in equilibrium. If I have too much of one, I will get depressed. If I have too much of the other, I'll just get overexcited and then tired because I'll lose my root. I'll lose my source of energy. Yeah. Okay, now let's just try just looking at those two states by coming onto the heels and the toes. So the down, the rooting is through the heels. And so I have to draw this back just to allow my sacrum and my tail just to sort of come down the back of the legs. Yeah. So I get this sense almost of falling backwards. So my arms are having to sort of reach out quite enthusiastically. And then I just rock myself onto the toes and just lift the heels. Still trying to root with the tailbone. The tailbone is trying to just hang down. And you just feel how this, just feel how it feels. It's sort of shaky. And it's sort of there's a tingle to it. Yeah. Whereas when I rock back into my heels and settle down, there's a sense that the ground is draining all of that out of me. I just rock forwards again. Ooh. And then just rocking back into the heels. And just allowing my tail to just sink through them and root me. So now I'm really flowing down the back of the legs. Again, just keeping this play all the time between the legs. And then just coming forwards again. Ooh. So we want to feel that, when we're coming onto the toes, we're just coming into almost like an opposite state to the one where we're in the heels. So when I go into the heels, it's like long energy. Everything becomes long and smooth. Yeah. So I'm enclosed in like an egg now with a smooth skin, a smooth shell. And then when I come onto the toes, it's like all these little spines start coming out. The shell just shrinks in to here, and out of my body, there's all these sort of antenna sort of probe out like the spines of a hedgehog or a porcupine. So all this detail comes out of my body. And then as I rock back into the heels, they all sort of just suck back in. And then this force field, like an energy aura, just comes out and surrounds me. A bit like the embrace of the mother. You become the child that's just cradled by Mother Earth and her energy. And then just coming onto the toes again. Ooh. And now, there's all this sort of spiky detail, all these sort of shapes and flourishes. So you become quite, like those sort of, those tribes people that dress, put all this sort of paint on and these feathers. And so they're just getting into like an energy state. So this is how we feel, you've got all these sort of plumes and you develop plumage. And then just rocking back onto the heels. Okay, now let's just come forwards again. And now just allow the detail to sort of, something starts coming out. So it's expressed in the eyes, so the eyebrows will raise, your eyes will just get a little bit excited and fierce, yeah? Now the detail we want to look at is the heel. I want to get the feeling that my heel is trying to extend backwards. So the heel becomes like a claw. It's extending backwards. And then as I put my heels down, I want this feeling that it's extended right back and it's cut underneath like this, yeah? And so coming onto the toes just allows enough internal pressure to open up my heels and extend them backwards so that I can then, when I put my heels down, they're much bigger. They have a much bigger reach backwards than they had when they were just not awake. And that is really, it's an action of the tail. So not the sacrum so much as the tails, the little coccyx. There's a sense that my coccyx is sort of bunched up. I mean, if you feel it, you can just tell it's just these bones that have just done this, yeah? So what we want, the same with the sacrum, what to feel, the sacrum is 5 vertebrae that are sort of fused together. And we're just trying to get a little bit of flexibility in it. But also the tail, I want the feeling that my tail can actually open out and reach backwards without ostensibly sticking my bum out too much. Yeah. So when I come onto the toes here, I want the feeling that I can direct my tail back. I mean, the bum does stick out a little bit, and that will send the heels out. And then to put the heels down, I do this with my tail. Yeah. My tail is reaching back, and then my tail pulls under and scoops at the ground. Yeah. But you have to do something quite fierce in your mind to actually get it to feel real. I mean, maybe nothing much happens physically, but it has to happen in the energy. So I'll come onto the toes. If I stay here long enough and really allow the energy to develop, it will happen by itself. Yeah. So here, ooh, it's like something in me is really shrinking in, and this animal is coming out of me, and that tail extends back, and the heels cut under. Because I mean, it's really difficult, this work, because first of all, it requires a well-trained body. Secondly, it requires a mind that's reasonably quiet so that it can concentrate. And thirdly, it requires an experience of the use of the spirit. Yeah, because it's all spirit, this work, it's all heart. Okay, so coming onto the toes again. And then something in me becomes like a little devil with a tail, a long tail that can reach right back and then fork under the ground. And then I just come back to that sort of grim sort of. And then you're those two things. Yeah, you're again you're a resonance or an equilibrium between those two states. Yeah. So your egg contains this imp, this sort of little devil that just wants to go out and just create mischief, yeah, and wreck things, yeah. And then this is just these quiet, yeah. So what we achieve one in order to then let it shift into the other, yeah. So it's not just one state that we're trying to achieve, yeah. And what's interesting about this one, it is very much like the big mind, yeah, contains this sort of the part that's just looking at all the detail and tearing, just pulling things apart and just making a mess, basically. And then this is the big you that's just embracing everything. Okay. And now let's just turning it. So just again, just feeling the 2 feet. And now I just produce a turn by just pressing the ground with the legs. And that will produce a turn. And then I just relax that and it turns me back. And then I produce a turn here. And then that relaxes back. So, whoa. And we just want to feel how, when we're turned like this, when we're at this sort of this higher energy state than we are when we're in the middle, it's a bit like coming onto the toes. Everything becomes a little bit charged and excitable. And this is just that quiet sort of round center. And then here things are trying to probe out of that and reach into the world. And then I just relax back. Yeah. So what enables me to maintain this charged state is my sinking. Yeah. So if I let the straightening of my legs bring me up in any way, then the energy would dissipate basically. So my sinking is like the lid on the pressure cooker. It just keeps everything cooking. So here, whoa. Relaxing back and whoa. Relaxing back and now let's just turning, but it's the same thing. Yeah. So I just want this feeling that what my body does is not because of a single controlling authority that's giving it orders, but because of the play between the 2 feet. It's a connection. Yeah? So my body is the play, it is the energy. Yeah. So the discipline I have to impose is really the discipline to keep these 2 parts separate, because they're always wanting to come together and just behave as one, because that's what I'm used to, because that's the way we all behave. We have a self, we have a singular self that is just giving orders. But here, I just want to keep the 2. If I keep the 2 parts a little bit separate, then that self doesn't really have a chance to sort of come together. And the easiest way to keep the 2 halves separate is just to get them doing opposite things all the time. So this side is clenching, this side is opening. If I can keep that in play, then they'll tend to stay apart. So just trying to create a balance between the two sides of the body. And then just try this one. So really it's all relaxation. But you need the mind needs to be sort of quiet. So it's a relaxation that just comes from not needing that normal tension to hold yourself together. You don't have to clamp and grip quite so hard. You can just really let all that go, knowing that your quiet mind, your heavy center, has enough gravity to keep you together. Let's just bring it back to riding horse. Okay. And now let's just try just stepping. So, but again, with the figure of 8. So I'm going around the foot. Yeah, so when I lift the foot off the ground, I mean, the legs are quite heavy. So when I lift the foot off the ground, effectively this side of my body, the side with the lifted leg, becomes a lot heavier. This is why these arms are necessary, these arms and the mind that reaches with them. And then the other side. The riding horse. Feel the Danshan. So we're all prisoners in a way. So what we would like to do is just Instead of being imprisoned in our head and then spending our energy turning that prison into a palace by gathering experiences and pleasurable things, we just imprison ourselves here. So the mind comes here and it's very bare. It's like a real prison cell, you know, just a hard board as a bed and bread and water and a bucket. So it's really quite grim. But it's only our mind, or only that sort of ego mind that we're sort of bringing here. And then the rest of us, our energy, our spirit, and the mind, the rest, the other aspects of the mind can really just venture out. Yeah. Yeah, so by drawing your normal mind in, basically you're just sort of, your spirit invests the world with spirit. So you become active in a very different way. So instead of becoming active manipulatively, so instead of doing what I call rearranging the furniture, which is what most of us are doing all the time, yeah, we're investing everything with like fairy dust, with like spirit. Yeah. And so everything looks different. Everything sparkles and almost seems to move. Yeah. And interact. You sort of sense the connection, the conversations that's going on between all the objects in your environment. Yeah. And you're just another one of those objects, but you're very much like a sort of something that's just there that functions to keep it all together and allow it to come alive. So, I love Heidegger's, he said, human beings should be, at our best, we are shepherds of being. Yeah. So we're there to sort of look after the flock, all these sort of, all these different things that are sort of shimmering and communicating. So without us, it wouldn't mean anything. So we invest the world with meaning simply by our presence. So we allow everything to sort of come out. And it's like then the world almost like it puts on a show for you. So instead of, nature loving to hide from us, so instead of, sort of barging into a situation or any sort of delicacy and energy just sort of shrinks back in, saying, I don't want any of him. Yeah. Our quiet, patient, tolerant, encouraging, enthusiastic energy just allows everything to just come out of themselves. Yeah. So it's the opposite of cramping the style. Yeah. When someone you just, they just, it's difficult to be yourself because they're cramping your style. So I really withdraw that in and I'm just saying to everything, okay, come out. It's fine. It's, and there's like all these little creatures, like these little mice that will come scurrying out and start playing. So let's just bring it up and finish. So let's just bring it with the toes pointing in again and just feel it. So it just tends to do this, yeah? So you're much more sort of opening up and enveloping yourself from behind, from your back, and encouraging this to sort of curl inwards. Yeah, so we have to be able to just settle into a posture, settle into stillness, and just allow the posture to sort of change our energetic shape, our configuration. Just allow the posture to work on you. Yeah. So you feel yourself, ooh, when the energy starts moving differently and when you take on a different sort of shape, you become a different creature. Yeah. So each one of these exercises, each Qigong posture is like an animal. So you become the animal and you become possessed by the energy of that animal. Yeah, so there should always be a sense with these sessions that, when they finish, we go back to our world transformed. We're a different creature, if only for a few moments. Yeah. Okay, so let's finish.